Hey guys, welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee, and I'm joined with Zeke Smith, my partner in crime, and episode 2 of the new year. And we are joined by Mr. Dennis Winkler from Winkler Public Relations. Dennis, great to have you this week, and great to have you on the show. I think you're a staple, so we bring you back every year because you just play such a significant role in the marketplace. But today we're going to be talking about really what public policy and the Economic Alliance's role in that. But before we dive in, give us a quick breakdown just for those that are new to the episode of who you guys are, who your business is, what you do, and your involvement both here and regionally.
Oh, Jason, great to be here with you and with Zeke again. Love coming back. Call me anytime. I'll fill in. Dennis Winkler, Winkler Public Relations. I'm the COO. Kathy is the owner-founder of the company. And we have Ross Winkler and Adam Winkler. Yes, if you have the Winkler last name, you can join our company, right? We have, both of them working with us. We do crisis work, crisis communication. We also do stakeholder and government relations work. We combine those because a lot of times when you are in a crisis, you need stakeholders and you need government to help you in that regard. One thing I'll mention that's different than when we talked before, we do have Adam Winkler. He's a 20-year veteran of the broadcast journalism group, and we have him on board. So we are doing a lot of video now, a lot of stories, telling the story in a very much a feel-good way. So that's a new part of what we're putting out there for our customers.
I'm glad you brought that up. I had the chance to meet Adam. He's been joining the crew, and it's got to be an exciting thing for the family. I mean, as a dad, having your 2 boys in the business with you, or as a husband and father, so you guys just getting to do that, it's got to be a wonderful experience.
It is. It's every day you're going to see a smile that says, "Hey, I'm pretty proud of what these guys are doing."
That's so fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about. Obviously, last year was a different year, right? And it happens every 4 years, right? But let's take a quick glimpse back, kind of what took place, Economics Alliance, or our alliance, along with your role, and how you guys would view last year in the election cycle, and then let's kind of weave our way back into this year and what it means.
Yeah, interesting enough, the election didn't really have a lot of impact, I think, on the Economic Alliance and what we have done. Here, and I say we, guys, because I'm part of this group. A founding member, a founding board member. But yeah, politics is involved in anything in business. At ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors. What is our phrase? Get into politics or get out of business.
Right.
It's important to it. But really, was the economy. The economy was driving, but we were, again, somewhat insulated to the economy because of a lot of projects that were already, out there, being completed. So here, Chad Burke and his group, run a great shop. They continue to bring, business in. So I think we're a little bit insulated, from it. But I'll also say, and I mentioned earlier, proud of, my company and, having my boys. I'm really proud of working with the Economic Alliance and what we've done on a public policy standpoint. It's part of one of the 5 pillars of the Economic Alliance. There's, we want to be sure that we support policy that promotes a stable business climate. And we've done that over the years. So I think, we've earned that success.
That's right.
By doing that consistently. Anyway, I think we're in a good spot. I think politics are changing. I think we're going to see a better business environment. That's what we want. So I think we're in good hands.
Fantastic. So when we walk into a year like this year, and we know that there's a state legislation session that's coming in, and then we also have really everybody's trying to, I think we talked on our last show, everybody now kind of has an understanding of where we're going as a nation. People are kind of sitting on their on their hunches going, what am I going to do next? And then they know kind of the direction that we're heading. What are some of the goals and objectives of the public policy committee and what their objectives are for here at the Economic Alliance for 25?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity, I'll call it a blessing, to chair the Public Policy Task Force for about 15 years. It's as long as Chad Burke's been here. I've been, maybe he needs to get some new talent on. I don't know.
Fresh blood in there.
That's right. But what we have accomplished, and I talk about the we want to promote a stable business climate. You don't do that alone. you do that in collaboration. And we've taken the collaboration beyond that to where we're actually partners. Municipalities. We're partners with municipalities. We help them when, as far as legislation goes. We're partners with business and industry. We help them. So when we talk about what is, our goal is basically to support the members. East Harris County Manufacturers Association, Texas Chemistry Council, American Chemistry Council. We work with them. So what their policies are, that's what our policies are.
Right.
Again, it's small business. We can't overlook small business because we have many of them as our members. Right. So, that's another, we need to be on top of small business issues. But it comes down to, what are the priorities? Transportation. We have to improve our transportation. And, I'll give a couple examples as to why. All these companies that have brought their businesses here, they've brought employees, they've added workforce. What's the number one thing for a workforce? Safety. I have to get them to my facility safely.
Right.
I've got to get them home. Now, I also want to make sure I transfer my products safely.
Right.
But, so we have to have good transportation. So that certainly is a big issue. Reliability of energy, another top issue
Big
for
one.
us.
Right.
It really is. These are 24/7 operations. We just don't turn them off and say, okay, we can take a day off because it froze outside. So that's an important thing to us. So having the infrastructure for energy is another important. So infrastructure for transportation, for safety, for energy, those are key priorities, that we have.
So Dennis, on our last episode, Chad talked about a white paper. And so some people that are listening probably know what that is, and then there's others that don't know what that is.
Right.
So help educate us a little bit on what a white paper is, how it's derived, where its content comes from, and then its value added. What do we do with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate it because it's, again, I talk collaboration, I talk partnerships. The white paper comes from Port of Houston, comes from Lee College, San Jacinto College. These are our members. These are ones who have the issues. So we put together the white paper to reflect their issues. What's important to making sure that the colleges can continue to develop workforce for us? What's important to the independent school districts so they keep churning out, educated workforce? I remember talking to Rick Perry when he was running for governor. If y'all remember that, and he was running against one of his college classmates, and it was terrific. But his college classmate came down and was talking to a group, and he said, "I've never had an executive with a company ask me about, taxes. They always want to know what is the workforce, what's the skilled workforce in the region."
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, then you get the workforce. Then you're going to worry about taxes and regulation, right? But, you're not going to come to a region if it's not the workforce. So we have to have that, and that's important, from that standpoint. Now, from a transportation standpoint, Port Houston, incredibly invaluable to us. So we have to make sure they get the money that they need out of the Texas legislature, as well as the money out of D.C., and that's why not only do we go up to Austin every year, and I think we heard Chad Burke say in a conversation earlier, he's got at least 4 times scheduled. Now, he'll be up there for opening day, but he's going to be up there because it's very important that he represents the interest of all of his members.
That's right.
And again, reliable and resilient energy.
Right.
That goes into the white paper. And you share that with the elected official. When he goes up there, he brings the white paper with him. He puts it on their desk, gives it to the staff so they understand what's important to this region, what's important to communities, business, and industry, as well as to the other elected officials.
Does the white paper just highlight the issues, or does it line up with any potential bills as well and say, hey, here's our stance or our position on this, or here's our need, and we've heard there's a proposed bill over here, and that's where it lies? I assume you line it up for these folks that can say, hey, we want you voting yes or no for this certain bill, right?
You do. At this point in time, it's the issues. We're starting now to get bills filed. I believe the first couple days there were a little bit over 1,000 bills filed. So it didn't take our legislative members long to start getting busy up there.
Right.
Now, in a general session, on average, maybe there's 6,000 or 7,000 bills filed, maybe if, a few more some years. So you have to follow those. But we're up there asking for bills, assigning bills to some specific legislative members who are, from our region, who know what the priorities are, and then we help advocate for those bills as well. So yes, general white paper to begin with. As we start going through session, it's going to come down into bills with bill numbers. And every organization that I belong to, everyone that you guys belong to, we're going to be in Austin at some point in time. Associated Bills and Contractors, late January, Texas Chemistry Council, late February. There are a lot of chambers of commerce will be up there. And
we all have a day.
yeah, absolutely. It really, and that's part of the process. And that's one of the beauties of Texas. We have a process that works, and we only do it every other year, 140 days.
Well, one of the things, again, that I think people don't get to see is that behind closed doors, or not behind closed doors, but behind the scenes, there's dinners, there's lunches, there's breakfasts, there's coffees. There's all types of work that you're doing and this organization's doing, along with the political action committees from ABC, that we're all working in concert to try to get our voices heard and the voices of the members heard. And so I think that speaks to really just the level of ownership that's taken as an organization and just how important this stuff is. So if I'm a member and I'm wanting to get involved and I want my voice to be heard. I want to get plugged in. I want to know what's in this white paper. I want to be a contributor to my thoughts and feedback. How do I go about getting plugged in at the Economic Alliance so that my voice can be heard when it comes to these type of matters?
Sounds like you're looking for a new chair of the committee soon.
Yeah, well, that's how you do. That's how you do it first.
That's right. Anybody who comes in and says, I want to chair public policy,
You got it. Second.
it meets on the fourth Tuesday of every month, 3:00, right here in the Economic Alliance building. And we have a good, diverse group of members. Again, we have mayors, on our public policy committee. We have business leaders on our public policy committee, from industry as well as from small business. We have education, represented. So we sit down and we talk about the issues. We also bring people in to, talk on issues as well. We'll be up in Austin for the public policy meeting in January, but so in February, we probably will talk a little bit about another key issue that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's water. Okay? Water is very important, and that has become a city of Houston priority. And they have laid out some incredible data around that. And, they'll start, obviously they've been talking and educating elected officials, already. But, as the session starts, then they'll be up there trying to get bills that will set up, the city of Houston for the future with water.
So when you say water, are we talking about the lack thereof or the quality of, or a little bit of everything?
Yeah,
I know in California right now with the fires, it's been the lack thereof.
Yeah. And again, we have a similar situation to not having enough water.
Wow.
Or having water in high enough quality and quantity, but not in the right places. So how do we move water? How do we move water from East Texas, to Houston, or move water really more accurately from the Houston area? Because we happen to have, a lot of rain in this region. So
Right.
How do we capture that water and move it? So there are going to be discussions around that. There's going to be discussions around, how do we sustain ourselves with water? How do we, not use needlessly, those kind of discussions. So, but again, those are things we talk about, and the Texas legislature has been very proactive on that. Probably 4 or 5 sessions ago, they put out a water bill that included a board, that's looking at how can they help fund projects in certain communities.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's work that's already been done, but there's more work that needs to be done because it is a finite amount of water, and we need to take care of it. And by the way, there's nothing we can do in any of our businesses without water.
That's for sure. Is that including flood mitigation, flood control? Is that part of that? Is there a separate issue?
That's actually considered separate.
Okay.
But it can possibly be part of the solution. And
I say flood control would be a possible solution, considering.
Yeah, flood rerouting.
Right.
Well, because when I think of Houston and how many times in the last 5 years of my life, 5 or 10 years, I felt like we were underwater in multiple cases. So when you try to say that we have a water issue, I'm like, I don't imagine we do. How's that possible? But then to think that how could we capitalize on that and then maybe perhaps turn that into a positive thing down the road?
Water in the wrong place.
It's in the wrong place, the wrong time. But we also go through droughts. 2011, we had a tremendous drought in Houston.
We had one last year.
Yeah, and we had,
Other pine trees.
But then you get a drought, and on top of that, then you have a hurricane, right? And you see those pine trees fall.
Exactly.
But so it's, again, we're not going to control the weather, but we can control where the water is, or we can control how we deliver the water.
So any other big items that we didn't capture that we want to make sure we address or talk on the show before we get out for you?
Yeah, I think we've captured the big items. There are some other things out there. Sustainability continues to be an issue for those in the petrochemical industry. Carbon capture is an issue. That's on the Economic Alliance white paper.
Sure.
Recycling is a big issue within industry. Again, how do we reuse and not create waste?
Right.
And that's an initiative all the way from American Chemistry Council down through Texas Chemistry Council, to East Harris County Manufacturers Association in our communities. So, those are things that are going to be talked about. And there'll be a little bit of maybe the contrast or contention within the session is going to be local control. Everybody wants to have control. Okay, now those of us in business and industry understand that it's best to have one set of regulations that you follow, because not very many companies do business in one city. Okay, we work in a state or region, we work nationally.
Right. We fought that at the Capitol several times, right? With certain cities and their certain regulations on businesses, because if you operate in, I think Austin was one of them, right? It's had a special city ordinance that required certain things that was not pro-business, I think, and so the state came out and said, hey, we want unified regulations and rules so these companies can do business fluidly between the major cities. And that just makes complete and common sense.
It does, yet each city has its own quirks and things that they have to do to regulate. So we have to find that balance between local control and putting forth regulation that is sustainable for business.
Any other questions?
No, my last part was just, we talked about supporting bills. I think that, I thought it'd be interesting to bring up when we go up to the Capitol, we kind of advocate, or I'd say, fight's probably a strong word, to prevent too many bills and say, hey, we don't want too much regulation here. We want more investment in capital. We want these businesses to want to come here and leave certain states or countries that have a lot of regulation. So a lot of that, your job or our job as the Alliance is to go up there and say, we don't need more
Pump the brakes.
bills, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 1,000 bills is enough. You don't need the 7,000.
I would just going there, see, if you file 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 bills, maybe 1,000 of them get passed. Okay, so there's more going on to stop bills than there is to actually pass bills.
Right.
This is going to be an interesting session for exactly that reason. Those people who are looking to pass good legislation will probably have a little bit of a struggle because of the chaos that's going on or the contention that's taking place, in the Texas House. Was a contentious speaker's race, and that's now settled, but how will the House move forward? Because they're a little behind. Usually going into session, you already have a speaker named, you already have committee chairs, they've already done some off-session work within their committees. Well, we don't have that this year, so they're going to be a little behind. The Senate, just the opposite. They are running, under good control with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. So they're getting their work done, and they're going to be ahead of the House. So now it takes both chambers to get bills passed. So where does that come together so that we end up getting the legislation that we want as business and industry, and again making sure that we don't get things passed that will be harmful. We have a good thing going here in Texas.
Yeah.
People are moving here.
Chad said with something like $8 billion of pipeline, the potential investment coming, we don't want to stymie that. We want that to go up, right? And some of those are potential and not locked up. So
1,000 jobs.
Some new regulation comes in that may lower that number. We certainly don't want that.
As we've seen on the national seen.
Right.
Billions of dollars are now being offered just with a administration that's coming in that is a little bit more pro-business.
Right.
We have a pro-business government
Right.
here, so we're in good shape. Let's keep the Texas miracle going.
That's right.
Well, Dennis, as always, your gift, right?
Great conversation.
And a legend. So we're real excited to have you join us, and excited about all the great changes and opportunities that are happening in your business. It's exciting knowing that we're going to have generations, right? So when Zeke and I are both in our 30s in a few
Finally
years,
get there, yeah.
finally get there, we'll be able to look back and remember that we had the original Winkler, and then we have the new Winklers coming in.
When we get our industry icon trophy, yeah, I'm gonna say like the 2024 industry icon,
The legend.
Yeah, that's right.
But really my call out though for those that are paying attention to this episode and those that are tuning in, and I think it's part of us to remind ourselves that we can't just put our heads down when we drive to work every day and be able to check in, check out, go home, and be oblivious to the fact that there's a lot of stuff that has to take place in policy up in Austin, up in Washington, and that while we can go down to the ballot box once a year, a couple times a year, that might be the only thing that we have a chance from a voice perspective. We might think that's the only voice that we have, right? But the whole point of organizations like this is to create a voice for you and your peers and those that you serve and those that serve you, meaning your employees. And so if you are tuned in and at this point in time, you've really just not know where to plug in or how to make your voice heard. We gave you some tips today, but I would highly encourage you get plugged into the policy committee here at the organization. If you can't make the time for that, get somebody from your team and or just get actively involved. You can be plugged into myself, be plugged into Dennis, but be plugged into this group as a whole, because we're going to be rowing with you. We put on great events every year that help keep you educated and keep you informed on the phenomenal things that we're trying to do for you to make sure your voice is being heard as a business owner, operator, and even employees that are here in this marketplace.
So I'll just add on to that. Economic Alliance has great value to you as a member because they do give you that voice. They also have the relationships. We have a terrific set of elected officials at the local, state, and federal level. Economic Alliance is plugged into them, and they help us advocate for what we need as a community.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dennis. So for those that have tuned in, we appreciate you. Thanks for checking in this week. We'd ask that you please pass this on and get the word out to somebody else that may need to hear it. You can always check in with myself and Zeke on LinkedIn. Zeke Smith, Jason Lee, we'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback, want to give us comments, maybe recommend somebody we need to have on the show, we'd love to hear from you. As far as it goes, we'd love to see you guys next week. So thanks for tuning in.